to gather, bringing women's ministries and platforms together for a night of words and worship. We are so excited to welcome Melissa D'Arabian, New York Times bestselling author and Food Network star, as she shares from her latest book, Tasting Grace, Discovering the Power of Food to Connect Us to God, one another, and ourselves. Thanks for joining us. Here we go.
Hi. Oh, what a joy and delight to be here. Thank you. Sarah, what movie is it from where like one says to the other, like, you make me want to be a better person? Right? Is that from a movie? Well, if it's not, it should be. But Sarah, that's amazing. I had to laugh when you're like talking about how when you're buying a bunch of groceries and then they're like say like, oh, you must be having a party, and I'm like nodding along and I'm like, and then you said, and my response always is, and I'm filling in the blank, and I'm like, nope, it's just a Tuesday night, I had a lot of kids. But I love yours, like you invite the person to your party. What a lovely idea. I'm doing that next. That's my next move. My next move is inviting, you know what, I'm inviting Dave from Vaughn's. And if anyone were here from Coronado, they would all be like, oh my gosh, yes, invite Dave from Vaughn's. Because he's always working, he's the shift manager, and he has a side business where he will fix your iPhone screen if you break it for $80. So I'm just saying, Dave from Vaughn's, you are getting an invitation to the D'Arabian household. So that's beautiful. Let's see, I'm deciding whether I want to sit or stand. Oh, this actually feels pretty good. Okay. So I, a lot of people, if you know me, you might know me mostly from Food Network. Oh, I do shoot short now? You can't see? Okay, all right, okay, let me know. Let me know if I need to stand up. You might know me from Food Network. I did a show called Next Food Network Star about 10 years ago. And I won that and then went on to host a show called $10 Dinners. And then host a bunch of other shows, including now judging. Last time I went to judge shows, which is a whole sort of peripheral conversation, but it does tie into why I wrote Tasting Grace. So I wrote a book called $10 Dinners and then a book called Supermarket Healthy. And so I've been in the food world for about 10 years. But I would like to say that I'm not in the food business. I wrote a column for the Associated Press for a number of years. I did their Healthy Plate column. So I put out a lot of food content, to use today's language, but I'm not in the food business. I'm not even in the TV business. I'm in the trench buddy business. And what I mean by the trench buddy business is that I believe that life is amazing and fun and wonderful, and there's so many wonderful things out there just waiting for us if we just look for them. But life is also hard. And it's hard because we are running late for an important interview and we can't find a parking spot. And it's hard because sometimes we get phone calls on a random Tuesday afternoon from the doctor or from somebody that delivers us life-shattering news. Life is hard. And I think at the end of the day, we all just really want to know two things. We want to know, one, that we're enough. That we're enough just as we are today. Just as we are with this body, this bank account, this house, this set of friends, this wardrobe. We are enough today. And I'm so grateful that for me, I don't know how I would feel enough if I didn't have my faith. Because that is where I can plug into feeling like enough. We all want to know that we're enough. And I think we also all want to know that we're not alone. I think we want to know that we're not the only ones who go through things. And C.S. Lewis says that a friendship begins when one person says to another, what, you too? And so when we can do that with one another, that's when friendship starts, and that's when we know we're not alone. And if we can be in those trenches of life for those Tuesday afternoons and for the parking spot stresses, if we can be in the trenches alongside each other and let each other know, you know what, today I had have your back. If we can do that for each other, then I think that's a good day. So winning Food Network Star, while it was really cool and really exciting, it didn't change my fundamental mission in life, which was to be that trench buddy. And how that looked was a little bit different, right? Now I'm able to say, okay, you know what? I grew up on a budget. I know how to put on a dinner party and to do it on a budget. I know how to take black beans and turn them into a hummus that you can serve and feel really good about serving and not spend a lot of money on it. That is my version of making somebody's Tuesday night just a little bit better. And that's the business I'm in. I'm in the business of sharing the trenches. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years. And in fact, I do a weekly online cooking show out of my home. I wanted to do some cooking without false eyelashes on, because that's how I cook at home. And on Food Network or in TV in general, we're wearing false eyelashes and there's a whole culinary team and whatever. I'm like, well, of course that looks really easy. You didn't have to do the dishes. So, but I wanted to show people how they can cook in their own home. So I literally 3 years ago, set up my iPhone and just set it up while I was cooking dinner so that people could see how I cook dinner. And that then turned into a weekly cooking show. And it's on Tuesdays, and it's called It's Tuesday Night Somewhere, which was I thought, really clever play on the whole thing. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, it's Tuesday night somewhere. So anyway, I didn't really think it through. I didn't know that 3 years later we'd still be with it. So the name is there, but the whole point is that my thinking is that Tuesday is like the every night. Wednesday's hump day. Thursday's almost the weekend. Monday, boo. Like Friday, yay. There's so much going on. But Tuesday is just like a regular old weeknight. And so that's my go-to example of a weeknight. In fact, on Guys Grocery Games, they once did a little montage of little clips of me mentioning the Tuesday night. Well, if I were to come home on a Tuesday night, I would really and they did this clip. They're like, apparently Melissa's week only has one day in it. 7 Tuesdays. That's all she does. She only cooks on Tuesdays. Everyone's on their own the rest of the week. But on a Tuesday night, we all just want to know that we're not alone in looking at the clock and thinking, holy cow, how is it 5:30 and how did I forget that everybody needs to eat again? And that happens to me. So I know if it happens to me, it must happen to other people. So Tasty Grace. So this is my first non-cookbook. Spoiler alert, there will not be recipes in here. So this is my first non-cookbook. Tasting Grace is the book that no one asked me to write. Which made it all that much more meaningful. Because with $10 dinners and with Supermarket Healthy, certainly with $10 dinners, that was sort of easy. I mean, it's hard work to write recipes, but it was easy in that I have a show called $10 Dinners. So, let's have you write a book called $10 Dinners and let's put in budget recipes and let's do that. And so it was a very well-worn path where there was sort of a pull demand on it. It wasn't me kind of pushing it out into the world. So Tasting Grace came about because I needed to reconcile for me what's going on in the world with food today versus what is going on or what I think God wants us to be thinking about when it comes to food. We are living in a society that is obsessed with food, right? We have celebrity chefs. We have we have Instagram photos that are take pictures of our food and we doll it up and we put filters on it and we even have a term, food porn. Like that's an actual reasonable hashtag for people to put on their food pictures. And we are reading cookbooks for reading. not for the recipes. They're no longer instruction manuals, but really like people are telling me that they're like reading them at night, like in bed, like before they go to sleep. I'm thinking, talk about a real snoozer, but okay. So we're living in this world where we have this culture where we are simultaneously obsessed with food while also distanced from it. Never in our Western history have we had so few of us, percentage-wise, touching the creation of our food. Now, there's technology, and a lot of that is great. I'm not suggesting we go back to a world where we are all farmers. No, but we need to understand that in that distancing, there is a price that we are paying. And in that ignorance, we are making decisions about food, and we are missing out on some of the benefits of food. We are making decisions that we are not sure that they reflect our value system. We don't even know. And so in this world of this chasm between this obsession with food and distancing from food, I think the result is a bunch of really mixed, confusing messages. And I, just Melissa, not I, Food Network star, and a publisher called me and asked me to do this. I just needed to figure out where I stood in this. As somebody who works in food, as a woman who's receiving these mixed messages about food and body image, and as a mom to 4 daughters. And my daughters, they're 14, 13, 12, and 12. So yes. So you can get pregnant while breastfeeding, just a little tip in case anyone's wondering. As a fun side note, my last 2 daughters, the twins, were born at Grapevine, Baylor Grapevine. So I lived in Keller for 3 years, a number of years back, but now I live in Coronado, which is off the coast of San Diego. But anyway, so I have fond memories. I'm staying actually out by Grapevine, and I'm like, oh, I can pretty much see where I have them. There's actually a fun story in the book about that. Anyway, but I needed to reconcile some of these messages. This world that we're living in where we will not eat a tomato because it has too much sugar, but then go into the gym and we'll see people carrying around these like bright electric blue sports drinks that, you know, have like every artificial color, every artificial flavor, and it's like super, super, super sweet, but miraculously doesn't have any calories, and we'll drink that for our health, but not a tomato. And I just couldn't quite reconcile that for me. I couldn't reconcile this world where we are constantly being told by this world exactly the one acceptable body type, and that I think I would be willing to do damaging things to my body in order to fit that mold. And so I couldn't quite reconcile that. And I thought, what does that mean for my daughters? I couldn't even reconcile the fact that we would talk, and I'm saying we, the media, the food media, and myself included, on $10 dinners, I would talk about hospitality as if it were a performance. And say things like, and these may sound like harmless things, but I don't believe they are. I would say things like, oh, you know, this dish is restaurant worthy. Your friends will come to your home and think it's like, you know, like they could be eating at a restaurant. They will think you spent hours in the kitchen, but it will be really, really, really easy. So this idea, you know, that we are to impress our friends and family. In fact, I would even say that, impress your friends. Make this dish, right? It sounds so harmless. But I couldn't quite reconcile that. And what I came to the conclusion on that one is that the language of impressing, and how we talk about food as a side note, I do think matters, but the language of impressing is the language of separation. right? If I'm inviting you into my home to impress you, that's the performance model of hospitality. If I'm inviting you into my home and I want to impress you, what I'm actually saying is, I would like to be a little bit on a pedestal. You know, it's a small pedestal. I mean, right? We're talking about like a great, chicken enchilada dish. I mean, right? It's a small pedestal, right? It's still a pedestal. It's a small separation, but directionally, I think that's significant. So I was hearing these mixed messages about what we are saying about food in society. And I thought, where do I reconcile this? Like, what do I do? Where do I turn? Where do I look? And when I'm in a vortex of a lot of confusion, the one place where I know to look to fix my eyes is on God. And so that's what I did. I did it out of desperation, not out of a wise place where I'm going to share this all with you and impart all my wisdom. It wasn't that at all. I needed to figure it out for me, and I needed to figure it out for my 4 daughters that I'm raising. So I spent several years. Someone this morning at an event asked me, so how long did it take you to write Tasting Grace? And I'm like, I'm embarrassed to tell you. It took years. It took years. And I don't mean like, it took me years, like, I have a lot of wisdom under my belt. No. I mean, I pitched the idea and it took 4 years to write the book. That's what I mean. I mean, actual years. But I spent years, 4 years, getting up every morning at 5:30, and which is for me my sweet time to connect with God, and I need it daily. We've just discovered this about me. I'm a mess if I'm not connected to God. I'm just unpleasant to be around. It just reminds everybody of the time that I went on the cabbage soup diet. So let's just. Some of you aren't old enough to know what I'm talking about. Cabbage soup diet. I was like, yeah. Welcome to the 90s. That was a thing. It was a thing, friends. Whoa. But so for years, I just marinated in this idea of, what does God say about food? I know what society is saying about food. Let's be honest, I have a job because society is obsessed with food. I'm not confused about that. So I know what we're saying in society, but I decided to be less interested in that and more interested in what God had to say about food. So that's what I did. So I got up every morning and I would just feel like the little tap on my shoulder, that like in my sort of heart's desire is the tap that, you flip over in the morning and you think, I'm gonna go back to sleep, and it's like so sweet and wonderful and the pillow's there. It's great, except that instead I let the tap be God waking me up. And I would literally say to myself, but I don't feel inspired, I feel tired, I feel whatever. And I just thought, you know what? I don't have to be good. I just have to be obedient. I just do. And I could not deny that I had gotten the tap on my shoulder. And so I literally would sort of like say it like a little quick prayer before I got up. I'd be like, okay, just meet me at the couch. I'll be there. It's like, meet God. That's my prayer. I know that's a really good. Did anybody say that at Dane's table? Okay, yes, meet you at the couch. I'll get coffee. I'll be there. And so I would get the coffee and I would go. I'd meet God at the computer, whatever. He would find me because he's good at that. And I marinated in, what does God say about food? And I discovered something that was a huge surprise. I expected God to be a bit disappointed. Disappointed in how we are handling our responsibility to care for creation, disappointed in the bright blue drink. I thought he would be disappointed in all of us. And maybe he is, I don't know, I can't pretend. But here's what I found in the Bible. I didn't find admonition. I found joy. I found that he is actually using food to bless us, to love us, and mostly to draw us into him and to connect us with each other. That's what I found. I found out that he wasn't going to teach me all these lessons. He wasn't going to wag his finger in my face. I didn't get a waggy finger in the Bible. Now maybe it's stuck there in a pocket that I missed, right? But I expected a waggy finger and it wasn't there. The amazing thing that I got from that time in the Bible and in prayer was the sense of God wanting so much to use food to draw us in, not to yell at us, not to tell me I'm doing it wrong. So it ended up being really good news, and I wasn't expecting it. And the only way I could describe that was through the word invitations. That God was issuing to us invitations into his closeness and his embrace, and into connection with each other, and into connection with the earth. And by the way, when I say with each other, I don't even mean just even the people here or around the table. I mean the people before us, the people who come after us, the people we don't see, the people far away, the people around our table. We get to be connected to all of them through the gifts of God and through his invitations. So Tasting Grace is the story of those invitations. Now, in Tasting Grace, I talk about these different invitations from God, and then in order to sort of illuminate or illustrate the points, I share with you the stories that came up throughout my prayer time over those years, where I suddenly would find myself saying, oh, so that's why I became a Food Network star. Okay, now I see how that fits in. Now I see that was an invitation into creation. And so I wrote a chapter about that. And then, and I wrote a chapter about how I discovered I was poor when I was in the schoolroom cafeteria, and how I discovered that who we eat with and where we eat, not just what we eat and that we eat, matters. And that invitation into compassion, as I share the story about how I was put on a school lunch program, is really an example of how Jesus didn't just feed people. Famously, he did, but he also ate with people. Yeah. He sat with the tax collector, didn't he? And the compassion and what that looks like, and the hands and feet of Jesus that I experienced when I was a kid. I talk about how food lured me gently, very gently, out of a 10-year spiritual winter that I experienced after my mom died by suicide when I was in college. And how we can use food to do some of the heavy lifting of sharing the grief with others. That's why the meal train is the official gesture of coming around people in grief, because we want to be able to say, I see you. I feel your pain, and I'm here to share some of it. And sometimes we don't have those words, but a tuna noodle casserole can say some of that for us. It can fill in that gap, right? So that invites us into comfort. God uses food to comfort as well. I am not talking about eating, 8 Whoppers, that's not kind of using food for comfort I'm talking about. But God uses food. God made a food system that was delicious. There's a theologian at Duke Divinity School named Norman Wurzbach, and if you have any interest in deep academic study of food and faith, he is the leading expert, and he's brilliant. But in his book, Food and Faith, he says that food is God's love made delicious. That's just so beautiful. Food is God's love made delicious. That's Norm's words. We can imagine a food system that wasn't delicious, right? We can imagine that. God could do it. God is a very efficient God if he wants to be. Why do you think he made the world so delicious for us? Why do you think we have juicy peaches and sweet tomatoes and creamy avocados? Why? He could have made it that we just eat something that doesn't even taste good. Why even have a taste system? Why have a palate that we satisfy and find joy in? It's because God is so generous. He wants us to delight in his food. And so we can lean into the delight of God's food and lean into and trust his system for having a palate that will be satisfied by the food he creates. We can do that. We don't need a bright blue drink. We just don't. We don't. And that's, I'm not the food police. So don't freak out. But I had a Diet Coke, whatever. Okay, so there's space for that. I talk about Diet Coke in here. But the world is delicious for a reason. And so I was relieved to discover and delighted and inspired to discover that the guilt language that we have around food, this idea that, we have to, after Thanksgiving, the pumpkin pie, go to the gym and work off those calories, make it guilt-free, this whole concept of having to earn our food is just not from the Bible. Again, there may be a pocket that I'm missing, and if so, let me know, but I couldn't find it. I could find no biblical support for that idea. I think that's us, right? And by the way, the half-truth in that is that we are meant to move our bodies. We are not meant to be gluttonous, right? That's the truth, right? But Satan, who is very, 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 very sneaky and wise, works his best lies in half-truths. He will take a half-truth, right? Or he'll take a truth and he'll co-opt it, make it a half-truth, and wrap a big fat lie around it. So instead of, hey, our bodies are meant to move, and that's good to move, and that honors God, and whatever, and no, we shouldn't be gluttonous, and we should be appreciating his food, he takes that and turns it into, you need to earn your piece of pumpkin pie by working out in the gym. And by the way, in that one sentence, we are now ruining 2 gifts of God's, right? Moving our bodies is a gift. That's amazing that we get to do that. Why can't that just be good? Why can't we just like that? Really, why can't I just like that? But why can't that just be good? Why can't that just be part of the worthy work of showing up and honoring our God, right? Because not everything that honors God is going to be something that we're super in the mood to do. Doing the dishes, when people go home, which I'm going with your plan. I'm like, oh yeah, feel free to stick dishes in the dishwasher as you walk out the door. I will say this, my husband's a little bit of a freak. He likes the dishes loaded in a certain way, so it's sort of useless. He does it anyway. So, but there's worthy work to hospitality. There's worthy work to food, right? We have to grow it. We have to have the patience to let the stew. There's worthy work in all of it. So there's worthy work in moving our bodies, right? And having pumpkin pie with family. Why don't we celebrate the extra hour that you spent with Aunt Edna, who you never get to see, and she gets to ask you all the questions and tell you why your hair's wrong. Why don't we just celebrate that? Do we have to ruin the Aunt Edna hour and the workout the next day by making one the punishment for the other? I could not find that in the Bible. So, Tasting Grace the story of 16 invitations, but the truth is the invitations are commingled and mixed in them. And I'm telling my stories in there because that's what came to mind as I was doing those prayers. But my hope is that by reading it, people will be reminded of their own stories. And suddenly that will shed new light into, oh, okay, that's what's going on. Oh, okay. And that stories from your childhood and from your adulthood and from various emotional moments that we've had that have food involved, that this will shed some new light for you in your experiences. That's my hope. My hope is that after reading Tasting Grace, that we will love food more deeply because it will take us closer to our Creator. My hope is that with every bite we take and every bit of worthy work of putting food on our tables and growing food in the whole food life cycle, that with every meal we can take one bite and get that much closer to God. I'll close with this. I was on an airplane the other day, and I got a salad, like a salad, right? You know what a salad is. It was an airplane salad. It's delicious. Okay, the salad came. It's like, arugula and peppers and tomatoes and, has this like cilantro dressing on it. And so they brought me the salad and there's chicken on it. And so I'm there on my Delta flight, about to eat the salad, and I'm looking at it. And it's like, you know too much. Like I can no longer just eat it. It's like I'm just taking just a moment just to look for those invitations, of these, and there's so many of them. And I thought, somebody grew this arugula, it was in soil, and I'm connected to the soil and the biome in the soil. Fun little side note: did you know that the biome in soil and the biome in your gut are very similar? As a fun little side note, that's another little scientific little tidbit that I also learned from Norm Worsbeth. Anyway, but I'm connected to that soil, and I'm taking in that DNA I've got this plant that I'm eating. Like I'm putting it into my body. That is really intimate. And I'm taking in this arugula, right? I mean, that's pretty intense. And I'm looking, and there's this tomato. Like, have you guys ever grown a tomato? Has anybody ever grown a tomato? Easy or hard? Hard. It's so hard to grow a tomato. I grew tomatoes and it comes out and it's I finally got one, and it's lackluster, and it's not even soft, and it's definitely not sweet. Talk about the no sugar tomato that my gym friends want. It was but it took so much, and bugs ate the other ones, and it was a whole thing. And there I am, I got this one little lackluster tomato, and I'm so excited, and I'm serving it to my whole family. Everybody will get one slice of the tomato because we're 6 people. We do not have enough for everybody. But it was our tomato. I grew that tomato. It is hard to grow tomatoes, and it is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of dependence on God, because we can be the waters, we can be the gardeners, but God is the one who does the transformation. So here I am on this Delta flight, and I've got these red tomatoes at 30,000 feet up in the sky, red tomatoes, and I'm thinking, who grew these tomatoes? Because I want tips. Because it's so hard. And while grocery stores are fantastic, and I love that they bring us access to food and all that, that's amazing. But they do tell us a big fat lie, which is that food is easy to grow and it should be cheap. Yeah. Because we walk in, and I don't know about you guys, but my grocery store is filled with stuff. Sure, some things are out of one thing, but it's filled with stuff everywhere. One would think that tomatoes are easy to grow for how many tomatoes are in my grocery store right now. There are a lot of tomatoes there. When I think what I did just to get one slice of a green tomato, I'm telling you, $1.99 a pound is not enough to be paying. And then I'm thinking about the person who made the dressing, the cilantro dressing, which was really good. And I'm thinking, they balanced it out. They put in a little bit of acid to it. There's some red wine vinegar or some lime or something. And I wonder why they chose cilantro, and they called it a pesto. And so they would think they would have gone with basil, but what an interesting choice. It's so good. And I'm thinking, somebody made this recipe. I know what it's like to make a recipe. I know what it's like. A fun little side note, I pray over every recipe I make. Just because I figure it's in a small way. In a small way, somebody's going to feel it. Maybe not. You know what? I throw my stone into my pebble into the pond, and God can do with what He wants with the rings. But I'm thinking of this person who created this recipe, and I'm thinking, what a creative move, and what a shrewd use of the vinegar, because I can't quite tell if it's vinegar or if it's lime. I don't know, because it's not well done. And then the flight attendant comes down the the thing, the aisleway, and she like hands me the thing, and do you want club soda? Or and I'm like, yes, club soda would be great. I don't need sparkling water. Aren't they the same thing? I don't know. Anyway, I'll take it. And there she is. I'm having this moment with this flight attendant. You know what? We just got to talk just for a minute, just connect. And you know what? She was seen. I was seen. Like so many of these gifts, you guys, I am talking about an airplane salad. And I'm talking, and as I'm there, and I'm like just taking just a minute to honor, and then the chicken who gave his life, and I'm thinking, no, I am. And like there's a DNA, and I'm sharing that, like some other people around, I'm wondering, I'm like, I don't know, is this the same chicken that you have? Like, are we related? I don't know. So I'm on the plane, and I'm doing this, and I'm like doing my prayer, and so the prayer has become richer and more meaningful, and now the food tastes better, and I am like feeling teary-eyed about like how close I feel to God for this amazing gift of airplane food, right? Not a fancy dinner at all. And I am thinking, what is gorgeous and amazing about this, and if there's nothing else that you take away from Tasting Grace, it's this. It's changing my posture from one of taking to one of receiving. Because when we receive, we're acknowledging the generosity, the amazing generosity of God. And nowhere in that story does that guilt language come in. Does the performance language come in? Does the you are not enough language come in? Does the skinny equals healthy language come in? It doesn't. Skinny, by the way, is just a descriptive word. Like it shouldn't have all of that extra meaning attached to it. We did that. We did it. God didn't. Right? That's just different sizes, different whatever. Right? Changing our posture to one of gratitude. So that's what Tasting Grace is, and I really hope you love it, because the only person who asked me to write it was Jesus. That was it. The publisher came later. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Melissa, for your inspiring and encouraging words. Connect with Melissa at melissadiarabian.net. Also, thanks to our evening host for making this night possible. And look for us next time as we gather together for a fun evening of words and worship, of encouragement and hope. See you next time at Together.